If homeless people come in there and eat, that's great, because you know what, if they have a full stomach, then maybe they can start pulling themselves out of poverty.
Announced just yesterday, the project, partially funded by the French government, seeks to make the WWF building a shining beacon of what the future of green buildings can be in Russia.
But this is more than just a pet project for Costa Rica. Over the next few years, there'll be 4 new sets of wind turbines on these hills, all built by international companies.
With that, we're back again. I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
It is so good to have you along as we talk about the solutions that mainstream media refuses to talk about. Why? Well, they've got grocery stores to support because they buy advertising.
Yeah, corporations to support because they pay the bills.
Yeah, theoretically anyways. That's why independent media is taking over the airwaves. Remember, if you're listening to us, you're part of the solution. Thanks for being part of the winning team. Let's roll a clip.
Last fall in Seattle's Beacon Hill neighborhood, ground was broken to begin the building of the Beacon Hill Food Forest. The food forest will be the nation's largest source of free food. Built using the methods of permaculture, the food grown in the garden will be self-sustaining and will be free for any and all people to consume.
This is really an amazing story. I know that the garden was funded in part by the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, and then it's going to be like planted and maintained by dozens of volunteers in the community. These are people that went out there and did something. You know, they held 3 huge public meetings, which is required by the Department of Neighborhoods, to gather all the requests from the community in Beacon Hill to say, we're going to build this beautiful garden that's going to be free to use. Everyone can use it. No pesticides and GMOs.
Right.
They're not doing any of that. Yeah.
And they have snack fruits like raspberries that they're planting along where the kids' areas are, so you can go with kids and eat berries. It's so smart. They have
like
strawberries, blueberries,
fruit
fruit and nut trees. I mean, it's such an amazing thing because you have like these one tree, it can do like 30 bushels of things and create it. And
it's self-perpetuating too. You know, everything's going to work in an ecosystem that kind of keeps it going.
Right.
This is what we should be doing in places like South Central. This is what we should be doing in places like, you know, in
rural
communities, things like that, where people, you know, it's expensive to get groceries nowadays. Obviously, the big pushback from certain people is like, okay, will the community have enough kind of, you know, energy to continue to do this and maintain it? I think they will. And then B, my other favorite one was well, what happens if like homeless people come in and eat it all?
Amusement came with this idea of, you know, quote, the biggest concern is that people are going to come and eat it. People are like, what if homeless people come and eat it all? My biggest dream is that it all gets eaten.
If homeless people come in there and eat, that's great, because you know what, if they have a full stomach, then maybe they can start pulling themselves out of poverty.
You know, when we went and talked to the mayor about the homeless issue, he said the same thing. He said, well, if we solve the homeless issue here, homeless people will just come here for free food and shelter.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem.
Yeah, well, you know, it might offend the blue hairs around here.
Yeah, I know.
His base.
Yeah, his base of, you know, those greedy, selfish people who build towers in the sky and say that the homeless people are an eyesore. I, for one, stand for feeding people for free. I don't know about you.
Kudos to the people of Seattle, Washington. That's a great program they're doing there, and the community's being involved.
And you know, you can get involved. Just get out there, get informed. We got municipal sustainability coming right up. Let's run one more clip before we get right into it. Check this out.
A 2.5 million euro renovation will soon see this 18th century building in central Moscow turned into a showcase of energy efficiency and green technologies. It's a new World Wildlife Fund headquarters. Announced just yesterday, the project, partially funded by the French government, seeks to make the WWF building a shining beacon of what the future of green buildings can be in Russia. The World Wildlife Fund's new 3-story building will cover a total area of 1,200 square meters. Project managers for the new venture say that expats especially are sensitive to working in green space. Greenpeace says there are 2 sides to this coin, technical and behavioral. Offices put in energy-efficient equipment and even institute recycling, but if the workers don't respond to it, it's just not going to save anyone money.
Something Russian office workers tend to be pretty adaptive to is bringing their own ceramic mugs from home and doing away with plastic throwaways. Now that could be a pretty tough sell in other countries. But something Russians aren't as friendly about is spending more money on LED lighting, like these, outfitting the entire Greenpeace offices. It's not a new idea, but for Russia, it's novel.
And more costly. But with numerous construction and management partners on board, the new World Wildlife Fund office promises to bring a whole new set of expectations for green buildings to Russia. Lindsay France, Primetime Russia, RT.
And once again, putting our polar bear friends across there ahead of us in the intellectual curve.
And it's nice to see the Russians are getting ahead of these things.
I mean, oh my goodness. We've got China with some major solar and wind power solutions, Japan with a major wind farm, and Canada with the tar sands.
And other third world countries like Costa Rica getting ahead of the carbon curve as well.
Yeah, okay. Then we've got nonsense about carbon taxes, corporations trying to buy their way out of climate change as if that's going to work.
Like that's a solution, yeah.
I mean, talking about putting the wrong accountants in charge, okay? I mean, seriously.
Well, usually isn't it the oil lobby that funds these studies about, effectiveness of green technologies?
But isn't it the oil lobby that funds the PMO? I mean, really?
As far as I know.
Harper, you know where he gets his money from. He was a former oil industry accountant. Okay, just remember that we are talking about the solutions around the world. We were talking about the fact that Germany, 60% of your energy in this country of Germany is now brought to you by renewable sources.
Yeah, like the sun.
Gee whiz. There's an idea. We have a sun that provides energy.
Wow, amazing.
Check this out, though.
Costa Rica's Central Highlands are famously lush and fertile. It's a region uniquely sculpted by the elements, but increasingly shaped by just one. Here, constant winds are almost guaranteed, and these are the biggest wind farms in Latin America. Turbines generate enough electricity to supply power to 40,000 homes a month.
But this is more than just a pet project for Costa Rica. Over the next few years, there'll be 4 new sets of wind turbines on these hills, all built by international companies. This entire region, then, is a template for the possibilities of wind technology.
And in a country committed to sustainable energy on a national scale and aiming to become carbon-free, wind power is set to play an increasingly important role.
En realidad, esta zona es impresionante, el viento que tenemos.
Winds are impressive in this area. It is one of the windiest places in the planet. There's more space around to keep producing, to take advantage of the wind, which is fuel. Imagine that. Wind is fuel.
De producir.
For the local economy too, there have been huge benefits. Inés Delgado is more than happy to live in the shadow of an expanding network of turbines.
My life has changed a lot. For 15 years, I worked with the wind power projects, and I've seen the development in the community. Personally, I've worked providing food for the workers, and that job has allowed me to build my home, get a small car, and even have some savings.
This landscape then continues to play a vital role in the future of power generated by the wind, and the findings here will have repercussions across the planet. Andy Gallagher, Al Jazeera, Tilarán, Costa Rica.
So while they're bragging about that, that it's being Canada's a first world nation.
Yeah.
And Costa Rica's ahead of us.
And Canada's the only country to abandon the Kyoto protocols.
Yeah. Okay. Water, desertification, right? We abandoned that committee. We've abandoned Kyoto. Actually, the Harper government's abandoned anything to do with responsibility.
Or common sense.
Yes. But, of course, they have strong beliefs in one thing.
And yet you have Costa Rica moving towards a carbon dioxide-free future, and Canada being one of the largest producers of CO2.
Yes, on the planet.
Wow, aren't we more civilized than them?
Yes, that's modern civilization. Remember, if you're a fascist, you're actually civilized. That is the weird kind of logic that's getting brought to us.
But at least there are people out there who are trying to help people.
My name's Jay Emery. I'm the Managing Director of Dingley-Dell Enterprises. I'm also the designer, the inventor, and the builder of the dome home that you see behind me. If I'm lucky enough to win your support, then this is an example of the type of structure that I will be building in rural third world countries. This prototype was built in 2009 and proves that we can build a viable and attractive dome home. The prize money will be spent on developing and supplying our unique patent-pending construction kits and giving the training and technical support for a pilot project in South Africa where we look to build 30 domes. This much-needed accommodation will benefit the zero-carbon Project O Children of AIDS Orphanage in Zululand. Earlier this year, the support village, which was built from conventional materials, was devastated by a mini tornado. Our domes are the perfect answer to this kind of problem worldwide. They are low cost, quick and easy to build, environmentally friendly, durable and disaster resistant. Your support will benefit not only the Project O Children of AIDS Orphanage, but will kickstart the dome home revolution, where rural unskilled people can be empowered to build long-lasting, safe and comfortable homes. Several large international aid agencies and businesses have expressed an interest in adopting our solution worldwide as soon as we have successfully completed this pilot project. Your vote is all that stands between my vision, the dream and the reality. Please register your support and vote the Dome Home solution as the Midlands regional winner. Thank you.
And that's just some phenomenal stuff.
I bet they'd be happy to have some of those in Moore, Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh. Outside of Mississippi or New Orleans, okay? They might want to look at those things too because they're still living in RVs.
Or maybe in New York or New Jersey too, maybe, huh?
We see tent cities popping up all over the place. Here in Canada, though, remember, our Prime Minister is preventing UN inspectors from coming in and inspecting the poverty that the Harper government is creating across this country.
Especially amongst the native population.
And, of course, there's money to be had in oil. I'm so glad we do this show. It makes me happy that there's real people out there with real solutions.
Yes, and not crack-smoking politicians.
Speaking of great big guys in the news, or great big news about guys in the news, Rob Ford is coming up. We're talking about it. The mainstream media doesn't want us to, but we're here. I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
Keep smiling because activism is winning, fascism is losing, and we've got a great big story coming up next.
1971, when President Nixon took the United States off what was left of the gold standard, the world has operated under a system of money called fiat. The dollar, the pound, the euro are all government fiat currencies. Fiat is a Latin word meaning let it be so. It is the law that this government currency be money. Indeed, without that legal enforcement, and the fact that we must pay taxes in this money, that dollar bill or that computer digit that represents a dollar would be pretty much meaningless. Only the government has the power to issue fiat money, but banks can create it through lending. If somebody wants to borrow $10, a bank can create it from nowhere and lend it. It can then charge interest. Banks also create money by lending against an asset, such as a house. They're given the deeds to the house, and they create the money out of nowhere and lend it, at interest, of course. But who benefits? Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks. They haven't had to do anything productive, they just create money. However money is created, be it through lending, fractional reserve banking, financial bailouts, or old-fashioned money printing, banks are always at or near the top of the money-issuing pyramid. In reality, this process of creating money only redistributes wealth from the bottom to the top of the pyramid, and thus that ever-increasing gulf between rich and poor gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
The Conservative government stopped debate on Bill C-474 without hearing the whole story. The GMOs are bad for you. Genetically modified organics are threatening the food system in Canada, and Bill C-474 could protect you. In December of 2010, our government is voting on Bill C-474. It's a real chance for our future. Please read about it, then join us.